Good morning and welcome to today's conference, HR 4.0 Digital Transformation. My name is Sally Fletcher, Head of Online Events for SSON, and I'm delighted to be hosting this event today. So the HR conference is always one of my absolute favorites because you guys are so collaborative and enthusiastic and have so many great ideas. So I want to make the conference as useful as possible to you, our SSON members. So I have a few notices before we get into our first fantastic session. So today we have 3 really exciting sessions for you. The first one is building a state-of-the-art digital HR shared service center. We're following that up with an exciting panel discussion on improving self-service adoption with employee journey mapping and more, which I know is going to be a really very interesting topic and very interesting session. And then we have a session from SSON Research and Analytics on the 2023 Global HR GBS Trends and Benchmarks. All of these sessions are eligible for your CPE points, which you should know. And if you do want to qualify for them, you need to attend for 26 minutes at least of this session and answer 2 polls. But I'm sure you're going to want to listen to the entire thing and probably more, because I've had a look at the slides and they look fantastic. Just a couple of notes on the console that you see before you. The console is fully customizable. You can zoom in on anything that you want to see closer. There's also a Q&A box to the left-hand side of your screen where you can type questions into me and Putul, the speaker. And there's also a resource center where our sponsors Cognizant have added some great resources. There's a flyer on their employee experience practice, as well as some information on case studies and work that they've done in the digital HR space. As I said, I wanted to make the conference as interactive as possible to you. So me and our speaker, Putul, we want to know, what HR trend are you most looking out for in 2023? Is it the use of next generation tech like blockchain, metaverse, AI in HR? Is it HR solutions to enable workplace, hybrid workplace? Total rewards making way for total well-being. That sounds like a really interesting topic. Or ESG as a lever for talent attraction and retention, or other. And if you have something else, pop it into the Q&A. We would love to see what you guys are looking out for and what trend is really capturing your imagination. I'm going to leave that poll up there while I introduce our speaker for you. Okay. So Putul Mathur is the Head of Talent Experience Enterprise Services at Cognizant. As part of her role, she leads a business that drives tech-led experience-based HR processes for key clients, helping them traverse their transformation journey. Putul herself has a proven track record of nearly 3 decades leading various roles in HR, including talent acquisition, talent management, employee relations, business, HR, and HR shared services. So she's pretty much done it all. Putul also headed the hire to retire process for many of their clients. So she's a really well-qualified person to teach us about the state-of-the-art digital HR shared service center. Welcome to the webinar.
So thank you so much, Sally. Lovely being here, and thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. Lovely to have you here. So before we start on our first question, let's look at the HR trends that people are keen to know more about. Oh, wow. So use of next generation tech like blockchain, metaverse, AI in HR. So you guys are really cutting edge, or want to be. HR solutions to enable the hybrid workplace, and a little bit less for the ESG and total rewards. And we've got a couple of people that have commented looking to use AI to help in all areas. So is that kind of what you're seeing with your clients across the board, Putul?
Absolutely, absolutely, Sally. Actually, the trend has changed. And then, as you know, post-pandemic, the pace of the technology intervention has changed completely. It got accelerated multiple times than what it used to be before. And the trend changed from making the processes effective for HR to making it truly experiential. And that's where AI plays an extremely important role in HR solutions, so to say, because it is available at any point in time that employees are looking at. It has solutions that can be built upon, which helps organizations deliver its HR functional charter, so to say. So in fact, I'm not surprised with the full result. This was expected.
I love that phrase. It's not effective, it's experiential. That's brilliant. Right, let me go into our first question. So the first one thing I really wanted to ask you was, why is HR shared service a critical element in the HR operating model?
Yeah. So what happens, Sally, is nowadays you see large organizations, you see multiple organizations having entities in different geographies, right? You see different entities for the same organization. So you see large conglomerates, right, which has multiple entities operating in different countries, so to say. And what happens is, over a period of time, HR practitioner or HR business partners, COEs of the organizations, they develop processes in and around their geographical limitations and so on and so forth. It becomes extremely person dependent, so to say, right? And the processes become very fragmented, so to say. And that's where it becomes extremely important that you have shared services as an operating model, which brings in a lot of efficiency into the processes through consolidation, standardization of the processes. And also, once you standardize and consolidate processes, is when you will be able to bring in technology interventions. Otherwise, technology will be automating the processes which are not as effective, so to say. So in current context, when the talent landscape has changed completely across geographies, if you see, across industries, if you see, if the processes are not agile, effective, the experiences that we are looking at, and these experiences that I'm talking about is not only for employees of the organization, but you are also accountable for the stakeholders of the organizations, right? Whether it is to do with your CXOs and CEOs of the organizations and CHROs of the organization, or the employees, or other stakeholders like your hiring managers, your business leaders, and so on and so forth. If you want to give them the experience of HR function and making it effective and efficient and transparent, so to say, HR operating model needs to have shared services. It's must to have, no choice.
Brilliant. Well, I don't think you'll hear any arguments from us or our members. HR shared services is incredibly essential and something that the majority of our members have within their shared services. And
Right.
I mean, what are the key elements for a state-of-the-art HR shared service center?
Elements, it has to be 360-degree approach around people, process, and technology. It is not only technology, believe me. It has to be all three of them together. When I say people, gone are the days when in the HR shared services space, the expectation was that the processes are given to the shared services, standard operating procedures been defined by the HR function, and shared services will operate on those models. Today, you need people who would look at data, who would look at trends, who would look at how historically things have evolved over a period in the organization, and will be able to provide those nuances to the HR function, is the kind of people that you need. So there's a lot of upskilling, reskilling that is required in this space for one to really get the benefit of the shared services, so to say. The second important aspect is to do with process. If you have to design for experiences. If you don't design for experiences, you would only automate bad processes. So it's important that you have looked at the processes, you have redesigned it or designed it basis what is truly experiential from an employee perspective, and then those systems needs to be connected before we look at the processes to be implemented, so to say. So process an important aspect. Process excellence is extremely important aspect of it. The third aspect that is in my mind then would come as an enabler is the technology. Once you have defined what your process should be, then technology, which technology would help you in terms of bringing in the kind of efficiency, transparency, agility, and the data insights that one is looking at is what would be able to help you with. So net all three of them is important, are important from this perspective.
Excellent. And I mean, just to kind of ask a follow-up question on what you said, because it's super interesting. Designing a process from an experience standpoint, how does one go about that? Is it about kind of knowing your customer, for want of a better term, knowing your employee?
You have to really apply all design thinking principles here. How would you go about exploring, having the complete empathy in mind as to what an employee would go through? And today, as you know, the organization is completely dependent on the talent that they have, and therefore it is important that talent viewpoint is looked at, what they want to do is looked at, how they want to be treated is looked at, and accordingly processes are designed.
Great. Yeah, good advice.
At
Thank you.
At the end of the day, the HR functions charter is to retain, attract, and develop the best of the resources in the organization. And all of those are possible only if you have experiential processes in place.
Yeah. So my next question is, where is the best place to start when undergoing HR digital transformation?
It's an interesting question, Sally. You know, HR is one function which is extremely complex. I don't want to undermine any other function, so to say, but why I say HR is extremely complex is because HR has very different charters. One side, HR has to look at experience, HR has to look at compliance, which means controls, and typically control and compliance don't go together. Control and experience does not go together. And then the third aspect of it is also important is to look at cost of operations. So all three elements are important, and therefore, while in your strategy, when we decide, or in our strategy when we decide where to start from in a shared services environment for any customer, so to say, we first look at what are my low hanging fruits, right? How do we first impact lives of the employees in the organization? Start with that and then move on to controls, which means compliance is important. Any non-compliance in HR organization can lead to a lot of reputation risk and monetary risks, so to say. The last one is cost of operations, of course, because each organization has its own limitations, its constraints within which the function also has to operate. So therefore, cost of operation is important. All three aspects.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just such a balance, isn't it, between experience and control, and finding that balance to both keep the HR shared service ticking over in a manner that it needs to, and also attract and retain the talent that you need to propel it forward into that state-of-the-art HR shared service center.
Absolutely.
Another question that I wanted to touch on, and you've already kind of, I think, alluded to this in your last answer, was around metrics. So, of course, shared service metrics are, integral, the DNA of shared services. What, from your perspective, are the metrics you need to track in a HR shared services?
The most important metrics is the employee experience, undoubtedly. Any action, any process that HR shared services manages must track how is it impacting lives of employees. It's important. The other aspect is, of course, the cost that I talked about. The other areas which are far more tactical, but these are the premises of any shared services organization, and that is whether the accuracy or the quality of the operations is maintained or not, whether the delivery is on time or not, and the last one is which is very important, is whether productivity has been managed or not within the specified time. So all these metrics from tactical and the strategic perspective. As I mentioned, compliance again is one of the important metrics because you just can't go wrong there.
I mean, a question that's come in, and I think it's a great time to ask it, from Narissa. And Narissa's asking, how exactly do we measure employee experience? Any example metrics that you could share?
Yeah, suppose if the shared services, and we actually track it for each of the transaction. If I have in the shared services environment closed one of the responses of employees who had actually under desperation had called for help when the benefit and pension plan did not go well. At that point in time, when you have helped, you have ensured that the employee has been supported. But later on, there is also a survey that goes to the employee, and it takes the poll as to how exactly the experience has been. Through that, you track and you track what should be the industry best survey result, with which you keep improvising on the processes that you manage.
Yeah,
And that's where, AI comes into picture. You use AI solution around it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we would be, I mean, maybe surprised, maybe not surprised about the amount of people that aren't asking about their employee experience. It's a trend, and it's, we know it's integral to running a great organization, but so many people are stuck in business as usual and at the hectic times that we're facing, and haven't really kind of put thought into how do we track the employee experience. And if we do have AI that can help us, that just makes all the difference.
So we use quite a lot of conversational AI to collect feedback as well.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, they're adding that into to the mix, because we do a lot of kind of customer experience and contact center conferences for the B2C market. And, we've been talking about that topic and the importance of knowing your customer. And, it's equally important to know your employee. And it's great to see this kind of technology being used in a shared service setting to really propel it forward. Brilliant.
Right. And that's why scale is important, and therefore shared services.
Yeah, no, that's true. So a question I have is on data. So data is the new oil, of course. How do you think data analytics augments digital HR? How can HR shared service help with the data?
So if you look at, in an ideal environment, a shared services should manage the processes, the transactional processes of HR functions, so to say, or most of the back office, front office, and the middle office part of it, right? And therefore, you have lots and lots of data, tons and tons of data that you accumulate. Once you accumulate that data, then the talent analytics part of the shared services would be able to have these data points connected through the connected systems, or through the data analytics team that they typically create, and make sense out of the data that you collate, consolidate through various processes that you run over a period, over the period of time, and through the H2R processes, which is hire to retire cycle processes. And then you use that data insights, share it with the HR business partners and COEs of the organization in terms of how is it faring, what are the trends coming in. For example, whether the employees are not okay with the kind of policies and processes which are there running in the organization. Whether you change the policy or process or not, that's a call that an organization takes. However, one is aware of what is happening on ground, which in case if you don't look at data and insights, you will not be even aware of what is happening on ground. So data is the key, and I think that's where consolidation, standardization, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the shared services space, whether you do it within the captive unit or you do it through your partners, it is important to have these connected data points and then have these meanings and insights. We do it for our customers day in, day out.
Brilliant. So take the time to gather the information, to share it with the stakeholders, use outside help if you can, if you need it, to really make sure that you get granular with the data and you understand and interpret it, to help the HR shared service propel forward. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So a couple more questions and I'll get to our audience Q&A, because we do have a lot of questions coming in, which is wonderful. And I've got a poll there, so please do put your answers in. What do you think is a level of adoption of digital HR interventions across the industry? Let's see what you guys think. So our next question is, a great HR shared service is synonymous with a great employee experience, which we've been talking about a lot. But, what defines a great employee experience and how do we create one?
What is experience? Whether it is customer experience or employee experience. Experience is all about agility. Experience is all about personification. If I'm asking a question, I'm getting my answer or not. Or am I getting a generalized answer, right? It is about transparency. If I have asked a question, whether I get response and right response, so to say, right? And again, how have you got back to me with the resolution is an extremely important aspect of it. So experience is combination of these that an employee goes through during the employee life cycle, so to say, right? And therefore, it's important that in a shared services environment, because of the connected systems that you use, connected data that you use, the kind of historical trends that the shared services organization, from knowledge perspective, contains within the organization, which is not person dependent but process dependent, managed by the knowledge management part of the shared services function. It helps HR functions design experiential process in the organization, and that's how shared services can have a huge impact on how function typically designs a process and policies for the organization, completely being aware of what employees are talking about, what employees are looking at.
Absolutely. So yeah, our poll kind of says, unsurprisingly, that the level of adoption of digital HR interventions partially adopted is the major. Not many people have reached that fully adopted nirvana. And it actually
I'm not surprised. I am not surprised, because I must be talking to number of customers on a daily basis, right? Today also, many of them are struggling to have, first of all, the usual connotation is technology is all about implementing a cloud HCM system, so to say, right? Whether you implement a Workday solution, you implement a SAP solution, or you implement an Oracle solution. All of these, there are many which are available in the market. They necessarily may not be able to influence experience. It's a combination of while they have all the solutions in place, what is important is how do we integrate it with multiple HR processes that runs within the organization. Number two, how do we have the implementation impeccable, right? Implementation has to be impeccable for the HR function to operate with the efficiency that is needed. So it is all a combination if one has to really provide the experience that one is looking at in the organization.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to go straight to our Q&A because we've got so many great questions coming for you, Putul, which is a testament to how some great advice that you've already given. So do keep your questions coming in, guys. If we don't get time for yours, I will download and send them on to Putul to reply to after the session. So first of all, Jane is asking, how valuable is a chatbot in a shared service model? And what are the success factors for its implementation? So quite a big question, but if you could just give a little bit of insight, that would be great.
Yeah, so in shared services, so I'll give you one case example that may help in terms of interpreting how actually it helps. When we were implementing shared services for a customer, what we realized that the customer used to have about 25 to 30,000 queries coming in from employees on a monthly basis, right? So the option is you have people who would address these queries and answer those queries within the specified time that you have, and of course the resolution has to be right. But when we did the analysis, we realized that at least 30% to 40% of those queries and questions and concerns which were coming in were to do with the policy questions, right? Which were very, very defined policy answers, so to say. So in a shared services environment, if you implement this chatbot at that point in time, what happens is that at least 30% of those queries will be answered by the chatbot itself. You reduce that the capacity that you had to build because you had to answer additional 30% of the queries, and therefore AI solution and the chatbot in those situations help. And it also helps in terms of coming back and giving you the insights as to which questions or what kind of questions related to what part of the employee life cycle is coming mostly on some of those chatbot solutions, so to say. So it is implemented in some of those use cases or scenarios wherein it is very, very structured data and you would be able to answer some of those questions.
Makes sense. So, its effectiveness is rooted in basically what task you ask it to do. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Another question that's come up from Tiffany, and it's related somewhat to the last one. Tiffany says we're building our shared service center in healthcare and HR representation in the majority of our facilities, but the culture is very deep-rooted in hands-on, in-person functionality. How do we shift the culture to self-service and the centralized shared service model?
So it's a journey. It does not happen overnight. And I have faced this across, wherein even today, the comfort is to just walk up to the HR business partner and ask for the answer instead of going ourselves and asking some of those questions, right? And getting those answers. So it's a journey, and it requires a lot of change management effort from that perspective. And that change management has to run with the or rather as an extended arm of the HR function with whom we typically work to create the complete communication process. What is it in for employees to look at? How is it going to help them in their day-to-day activities? How is it going to help them in terms of freeing up their own bandwidth instead of following up and getting some of those answers? So it's a journey. It happens by and by. Complete communication methodology and change management methodology that one has to use to implement this journey. And we do it for our partners, we do it for our customers at all point in time. And if there is any specific question, one can write to me. I will answer those questions.
Yeah, brilliant. I will do one last question, and then to everyone else that submitted questions, do not worry, I will send them on to Putul to get back to you guys in more detail. But I'm going to end on this really interesting question from Maria. And Maria's asking, how do you keep your shared service employees motivated to serve other employees? So shared service employees are expected to wow their internal customers, but they often get left out of the process of being delighted themselves.
Very, very good question. But the important aspect of it is to let them know how are they influencing and impacting the lives of people on the ground. And here there is very, very I would say it's very close to my heart, and therefore I want to bring in this example. Typically, when there was pandemic happening, employees were desperate at that point in time for most of the organizations, right? They needed help. Shared services employees themselves are employees of the organizations, right? But they know that if there are questions and support, help is required from an employee. If I help at this point in time, there is a life that is going to be saved. There is there is, you are helping them with all necessary information that is needed. That sense, that purpose of making an impact, influencing lives of people, is something that gives that motivation. And I think most of the today's generation, if you look at our millennials, they are looking for purpose in their life. You tell them the purpose, that this is going to influence employees, it is going to influence lives of people, they will be motivated. It's important that the second aspect that they need to understand is, and typically we as shared services owners should understand, that it is important that they see themselves acquiring skill and knowledge over a period of time and being far and far more capable than what they start with in their career. And that's where again they see value, and you can keep them motivated. At the end of the day, they want to grow as a professional who is equipped with helping employees, influencing HR function, and also the society to a large extent. So these are the proven methodology through which we've been able to motivate them.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Communicating the purpose and the bigger picture of the task and the project that you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, I can imagine that making a huge difference to the work that you do. So yeah, really, really good advice, and hope to, HR is such a critical part of every single business that there's always a big impact with whatever the HR shared service and HR people do. So yeah, really good advice. Thank you.